The president of Syria is the richest man in the country. He has everything from private jets to mansions and over $3 billion in his bank account. But the craziest thing about him is that he's not afraid to kill anyone who gets in his way. He killed more than 100,000 people. So what makes him so powerful? And how did he get away with all this? It all started when Bashar al-Assad became the president of Syria in 2000. At first, he seemed like a good leader. He was young, charismatic, and promised to bring change to the country. But behind the scenes, he was ruthless and power-hungry. He quickly consolidated power by eliminating his rivals and then turned on his own people. In 2011, the Arab Spring movement spread to Syria. People took to the streets to protest against Assad's regime. They wanted freedom, democracy, and an end to corruption. But Assad was not willing to give up his power. He responded to the protests with brutal force. His security forces shot at unarmed civilians, tortured and killed protesters, and ordered snipers to fire on crowds. Thousands of Syrians were killed or imprisoned without trial. The situation became so bad that the United Nations called it the worst crackdown on peaceful protesters in modern history. But even though Assad's regime was responsible for all this violence, they still had the support of some key allies. The most important was Russia, which provided military and financial aid to the regime. With Russia's help, Assad was able to crush the rebellion and stay in power. But this came at a cost. The war caused massive destruction, displaced millions of people, and led to a humanitarian crisis. Another ally of Assad was Iran, which saw Syria as a strategic and ideological asset. Iran had a significant presence in Syria before the war, but it increased its support during the conflict. Iranian officials and volunteers from Iran's elite Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps traveled to Syria to help Assad's forces. They provided training, weapons, and advice to the regime's soldiers and helped coordinate attacks on rebel forces. Additionally, Iran sent shipments of advanced weaponry to Syria, including attack drones, surface-to-surface missiles, and anti-tank guided missiles. These weapons were used to target rebel groups, civilians, and aid organizations. And finally, Hezbollah, a powerful Iranian-backed Shiite militia based in Lebanon, also supported Assad during the war. Hezbollah fighters participated in battles alongside Syrian army troops, providing valuable assistance in key moments of the conflict. They also helped Syrian forces regain control of strategic areas, especially near the Lebanon border. But despite these foreign interventions, it seems that Assad may have ultimately won the war. If the recent news is anything to go by, there are increasing reports that Assad has retaken control of the entire country, including the last rebel stronghold in the northwest. This would be a major victory for Assad, who has been fighting to maintain his grip on power for over a decade. It would also be a significant blow to the Syrian opposition, which has been struggling to make gains on the battlefield. However, it's important to note that the situation in Syria remains fluid, and there are conflicting reports about the level of control that Assad's forces have over the country. Some reports suggest that despite government advances, pockets of resistance remain in parts of Syria and that the war is far from over. At this point, it might seem like Assad is untouchable, but there are many theories about how he might eventually meet his demise. Some believe that he will be assassinated by a rival power, such as Turkey or Israel, which have both carried out strikes against his regime. Others believe that he will be overthrown in a palace coup by members of his own family or inner circle, who will see him as a liability to their own power and interests. Still, others believe that he will be brought down by popular revolt, perhaps along with the continued support of Russia and Iran. As things stand right now, though, it looks like Assad is secure in his power, and that he will continue to rule Syria for the foreseeable future. Regardless of how he ultimately meets his demise, though, one thing is clear: the Syrian people have suffered immensely under his regime, and they deserve better. The war in Syria has had a devastating impact on the country and its people. Millions have been killed, wounded, or gone missing. Entire communities have been wiped out, and the country's infrastructure has been decimated. The war has also created a severe refugee crisis, with millions of Syrians fleeing to neighboring countries and Europe. The international community has called for a ceasefire and peace talks, but so far these efforts have been unsuccessful. The war continues to rage, and the Syrian people continue to suffer. Despite the immense challenges they face, the Syrian people have shown incredible resilience. They have come together to help each other in the midst of the chaos and destruction. They have also demonstrated an unwavering determination to fight for their freedom and democracy. The Syrian people deserve our admiration and support. They are the true heroes of this story. So what can we do to help them? First, we can raise awareness about their plight. We can share their stories and hold their government accountable for its actions. We can also support organizations that are providing humanitarian aid to Syrian refugees and internally displaced persons. Finally, we can advocate for a peaceful resolution to the conflict and for the restoration of democracy in Syria. What can you do to help the Syrian people? Let us know in the comments below. Maybe you have some ideas that we haven't mentioned here. Please share them with us. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you can always be the first to watch our new videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.